Welcome back to Young Engineers of Today. Hope you had a good couple of days. We're going to continue with Fusion 360. So last we met, we managed to make the side walls and the top of the bookcase. Nothing too crazy, but it gave us the ability to at least see how it was all going to sort of shake out in 3 dimensions. And it gave us the framework so that we could continue along with the build and form it into something that resembles more of a real-life bookcase. This is only part one, so if you'll excuse me a moment, I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of it open. Yeah, here we go. This is the monster master copy. So yeah, this is where we left off. We had our two side walls. We had the top. There was the mid plane there, and then we brought up the point that we're not really going to be able to continue quite yet because in order to get this stuff on the inside, we can't use this sketch that's on the outside. As you might have noticed that bookshelves tend to have all the stuff on the inside, but the sketch is sitting on the outside, and we have no way to extrude through this side wall. So what we need to do is we need to set it up so that we can start creating the shelves in the back of the bookcase and the kick plate. So let me go ahead and get Fusion 360 open. Will be a moment. That coffee is definitely still hot. How are you guys enjoying this project so far, by the way? Are you interested in this at all? Like, does it seem kind of neat, or is it not really your style? It's all right if it's not really your style. I mean, there could be something else that gets you interested, but I'm always just kind of curious. CAD is not something that I originally ever thought I was going to do. I'm more of a programmer by knowledge and practice and education and stuff like that. So this was sort of a new road for me to go down, but it is kind of interesting, the kind of stuff you can do with it. But yeah, I don't know how you guys necessarily feel about this. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I agree with that. I mean, it's not something I ever envisioned myself working with, um, but the ability to sort of create a design and have it be, scaled properly and ready to go so that you can manufacture it somehow in real life. Yeah, that is pretty cool. I agree. Well, that's good then. That's good to hear. All right. Let me go ahead and get that bookshelf open. Hide the data panel, and just as a reminder, you can pull up the saved file by clicking on the little grid of 9 squares in the upper left-hand corner. It should bring it up, all of your recent stuff. So then you can go ahead and open up the bookshelf. So yeah, this is what we had so far. Really nothing terribly, involved, but it is kind of neat. Got this nice 360-degree rotation going on. Sometimes it looks weird and like the lines aren't straight, but that more has to do with the way that the software projects a three-dimensional image. So like, if you look at this, the perspective is all funky. It looks like the back end is larger than the front end. Like it's wider than the front end, and this has got sort of like a trapezoidal kind of a thing going on. But if we just rotate it to the top, you can see that's clearly not the case. It just has to do with the way that everything is projected on the Fusion 360 software. I believe this is so it's easier to see stuff behind it. So like if we have it like this, it brings up more of the detail in the rear area in case you need to work with it from this angle. But, that's just my semi-educated guess. Anyway, back to our original problem at hand. How are we going to get that sketch on the outside on the inside? Well, it just so happens that there is a way to do it. There's actually something built into it. Let's see here. Let me just make sure I've got this all. Yeah, okay, cool. So what we're going to do is real quick, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm not going to do that yet. What I want you to do is I want you to go to the drop-down menu for Sketch. And then there's that first option right there, Create Sketch. So it creates a sketch on the selected plane or planar face. That's the one we want. So you're going to go ahead and click that. And again, we get the ability to select a plane in order to create a new sketch. Now, the other thing about creating a new sketch is you can also select a face on a body to work with. With that in mind, we're going to select this inward face on the same wall that our original sketch is on. So the left side if you're looking at it from the front, or the right side if you're looking at it from the back. Regardless, this is the side that we extruded manually and not the one that was mirrored. So we're going to want to use this side. Go ahead and click on it, and everything should, reposition itself so you're looking at it face on. If you have up here in the upper right-hand corner the cube saying the word right, well, then you're on the right track. Now, it's going to be a little bit difficult to work with this because even though we're looking at it from the right, we've still got this right sidewall in the way. It's still there. So what we can do in this situation is we can go down and we can click all of these light bulbs in order to hide these individual bodies. So I'm going to hide body 3 first, and we've still got the top body, so I'll hide body 1. And finally, we just have the left sidewall, so I'm going to hide that one too. I'm also going to hide the midplane by clicking next to plane 1 under construction, the light bulb next to it. So now we have 2 sketches. We have this inner smaller sketch, which is the one we just created, and then we have this outer larger sketch, which I can only highlight the top rectangle of. But this one is that one's the original sketch that we created on day 2 or whatever when we first started using Fusion 360. So that's good so far. That's what we want. Well, now what? Now you're going to want to go to Sketch, again, the drop-down menu, and then Project/Include. It's actually Project/Include. That was my mistake. And then you're going to select Project. One guess as to what Project does. Well, from each person. But what do you guys think it does? Give you a big hint, it's in the name. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it just projects. It'll take the elements of one sketch and project them onto another one, so that that second sketch will have the same elements with the same dimensions. Might not make sense exactly right now, but it will in a moment. So here's what we're going to do. Now that you've got project selected, I want you to select, let me see here, all of the same lines that I do. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that now. So it's going to be this, it's going to be the top line of our second sketch. It's going to be these two long vertical lines. It's going to be all of the horizontal lines here, and then the two short vertical lines here. Let me just double check. Hey, perfect. So, yes, hi, Cat. That's what we want to project. Let me move the mouse away so you can see that one there. So we've got, highlight it with, well, I can highlight it actually with a highlighter. I want this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, and this one, and then these two. So those are the lines that we want to click to have be projected. And when the lines turn purple, you know that you've selected them for projection. Give everybody a moment to do that, and then we shall see the fruits of your labor. I know those aren't exactly straight lines, but hopefully I got the idea across. Okay, so I'm going to erase all of these, and I'm going to hit OK on the projection window. Let me just make sure. Yep, selection filter, geometry select, done. Hit OK. Now let's go ahead and rotate the camera a little bit. Look at that. So as you can see, our second sketch is just floating a little bit over the top of the first sketch. However, more importantly, as you can see, these lines now exist on the second sketch that line up perfectly with the first sketch. If we look at it straight on again, as you can see, they overlap perfectly. So these lines now exist on the second sketch. The important thing being, this sketch exists on the inside of that wall, which we can then use to extrude with. Now, the cool thing about project is, let's say we realize that we screwed up something on the original sketch here, and we want to change some of these proportions. Like we thought, oh, this one needs to be resized or whatever. Well, because we used project, this second sketch on the inside will automatically update itself in order to reflect those changes. So if we change something on this side, it will automatically change on this side in order to mirror it, or be identical to it, rather, which is nice. Really, the whole idea behind this is we want to set as much stuff up so that in case one aspect of the project changes, like say we use different thickness material, we can accommodate for that very easily in this design. That's why we used the user presets. That's why we're trying to like mirror and reduce the amount of repeat work as much as possible, because there are dependencies that are sort of built upon other parts of the sketch. This thing is this big because this thing over here is this big, because this thing over here is this big, because this thing over here is this big, because we set a user preset that says that that thing has to be this big. And then if we go back to the bottom of that chain and we change, that user preset, then everything else will adjust to accommodate. So we can make large-scale changes across this project just by changing like one thing. And that's, like I said, important if, we're working on a project and something ends up changing. You don't have to redraw the entire thing. You can just go in there, change the user preset, and then watch Fusion sort of figure out all the math magic in order to like get a result that reflects the changes in your project. Which is kind of neat. Anyway, now that we've done the projection, let's go ahead and bring back these bodies. And if we look again, we'll notice that the sketch is on the inside of the sidewall, like I promised. Promise is a bit of a strong word, but like I was saying. Cool. So now we're actually ready to start extruding this stuff on the inside. Let's see what we do first. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's the back side first. So let's go ahead real quick before we do anything else, and we'll hide sketch 1 by clicking that light bulb. Because right now, sketch 2 is the star of the show. We care about sketch 2. Sketch 1 is sitting over there in the back being like, I was the original, and he's, being all difficult and hipstery and stuff like that. But we don't need sketch 1 right now. In fact, it might actually confuse things more if we have a second set of identical rectangles just kind of hanging out around here, regardless of whether or not they're on the back or the front. So let's go ahead and hide sketch 1. So just sketch 2 is visible, because sketch 2 is our new all-star. This is where we're going to start working with all this stuff. So now that we've got sketch 2 showing, we'll triangle these things away. Go down to create and extrude. We're going to extrude again. No surprise there. And just go ahead and select all of these vertical rectangles and squares along the back. So now we've got this long blue strip along the back. And you can tell it's the back because if we rotate the cube, so we have the word back here, we can see that that blue strip is close to us. Closer to us than the front, obviously. Cool. All right. Now that we've done that, I believe we can just, can we? Can we just type width? Oh, no, we don't actually do that. We do something a little bit different. That's right. This is another handy feature. So far, we've familiarized ourselves with the distance option and extents, where we type in a specific distance and it goes that far, which is pretty straightforward. Like, no surprise there. We know that it's going to go exactly the length of width, but we don't have any sort of user preset for that kind of thing right now. Because it's not going to be width, right? Because width is from here to here, but we've also got this, let me just draw this for, width goes from here to here. However, we've also got these widths to take into account, and those get subtracted from the total width. So we're not actually extruding this back a distance of width. It wouldn't work that way. It would go, oh no, I'm running into things and everything's going wrong and I don't know what to do now. And we'd go, oh, okay, so we need to figure out a plan B. So this is what we do in order for it to work. Under extents, you're going to select 2. That's it, just TO. That's all it is. 2. And then it's going to ask you what you want to extrude it to. All we have to do is click the inside wall of the other side, or the inside of the other side wall. So we're extruding from, we're extruding from here to here. So let me just go ahead and click it. Bam. Look at that. Now, you'll notice some funkiness with this. There's a little, rectangle here. There's actually a little kind of cut there, and the cut up here has disappeared. It's all joined. We need to make sure that this back is separated from the rest of the design. So you've got this operation one here, which is currently selected on join, at least if yours is like my computer. What you want to do is you want to select new body. It always defaults to new body, but then in an attempt to be helpful, Fusion will default it to join, when you switch the extent to 2. There are so many just basic words and prepositions in that sentence that aren't actually used as prepositions that sentence got kind of confusing to say. It might have been really confusing to hear too, I don't know. But anyway, regardless, you'll notice now that the cut is back. So we have successfully separated this back wall from both side walls and the top. So we're going to hit OK. And look at that. Now there's a back to this bookcase. And just like what happened last time, the sketch disappeared because we extruded it and it went, oh, hey, you must want that gone now. Let's get that out of the way. So go ahead and click the light bulb in order to bring it back. We don't want it hidden quite yet because we still have some other things we need to add to it, namely shelves and a kick plate. So let's go ahead and repeat that process for the shelves and the kick plate. So create, extrude, to, click again. Make sure it's new body. That's the important thing. You got to make sure it's new body at the end because it will default back to join. And then you'll have a much more complex bookcase because, then you'll have these two side walls and this middle shelf here will be connected together and it just won't make any sense. It'll be ridiculous to try and turn that into something that you can cut out with a CNC machine. So cool. That's one bookshelf down, or one shelf down, and 2, click, new body, the second shelf down, OK. And then finally, click, 2, click, new body, OK. The kick plate. And then I'm just going to hide my sketch and give me a show of hands when you guys have done the same thing. All right, we got 1 hand so far. 2 hands. 3 hands. That was a terrible roll of the R and terrible TH. And the purple lines don't go all the way through. You mean they don't extend from, like the back to the front on this inner wall, or are they like a little bit sort of embedded inside of the side wall or something like that? They are on the other side of the wall. Maybe try undoing a couple of steps because maybe your sketch got moved. You could also redefine the sketch plane. Like if you right click on sketch 2 and you select redefine sketch plane. Okay, no worries. That's totally understandable. If you right click on it, select redefine sketch plane, and then click on this inside wall here, it should move the sketch plane to that inside wall so that you can work with it there. Let me know if that works for you, Jeff. Excuse me, it was time to stretch. Yeah, sure. Okay, so the way you move the sketch itself is to right-click on the sketch, and then there is an option called Redefine Sketch Plane. If you select that, you can select a plane in order to place the sketch onto. So you notice how I'm looking at the bookshelf from the front. Make sure you select the inside wall, or the inside part of the left side wall, just like how I've got it here. Hit OK. You don't have that option. Is it like just grayed out, or is it just not appear there at all? Interesting. All right, well, if you make it visible, tell me which plane it's on, like where it exists, if you could. So is it on this inside wall already, or is it on the outside of the, like the outside of the side wall? Um, is it sort of floating off in space somewhere? It's still on the outside of the wall. Okay. Um, maybe just try creating a new sketch and then projecting, like selecting the inside of this wall and then just trying from that again. Give everybody about 5 more minutes to get the shelves and everything extruded. Should be plenty of time, and then we'll move on to the next incredibly important part. Trust me, super important. It's a bit of sarcasm, but it's kind of neato. Okay, yeah, sometimes that'll happen too. Uh, is it saying anything in particular when you're trying to create a new sketch on that? Is it saying like it'll overconstrain the drawing or anything like that? Oh, that's annoying. Yeah, it could be your fusion. It's just being petulant. Good restart should fix that. Of the program, that is. Woo, woo, woo. Action bookcase. Don't mind me, I'm just doing terribly important things. Couple more minutes, and we'll move on. Don't sweat it, if you're still extruding or anything like that. Okay, so most of you should either be done extruding or on your way to being done extruding or pretty close or whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to the next bit. Now, this is sort of an intermediary step, which is not necessary at all. However, it's kind of neato, so we're going to go ahead and do that. So under Modify, you click the drop-down menu. There is a particular option, which is labeled Appearance. Basically, there is an option called Appearance. Go ahead and select that one. And it should hem and haw for a minute, and then it will bring up an Appearance menu. Gonna hide the appearance material information. And you should see a bunch of different options. You've got glass, you've got leather and cloth, you've got metal, there's the mysteriously named other, there's paint, there's plastic, there's wood, and then in parentheses, solid. We're going to be using wood. If you click that, it should bring up another couple of folders, finished and unfinished. We're going to select some finished wood because we're not barbarians and we like our bookcases to look nice. And you got a few different options here. Bamboo lights, oak, bamboo dark, cherry, mahogany, oak, pine, walnuts, and generally in glossy or semi-gloss options. I'm going to select oak semi-gloss, apropos of nothing in particular. And if you just click and drag it, if I drag it over a body, you notice that the body gets highlighted. Let's go ahead and place it on the back there by releasing the mouse button. And would you look at that? The texture changes. So what we can do is we can actually drag this onto all of the different bodies on the bookshelf, and suddenly our bookshelf looks like it's made out of wood. And it's got a little bit of shininess because it's a semi-gloss. If we wanted to, we could just mess around with the different options. Oh, I need to download Bamboo Dark before I can use it. I wonder. You can have a bookshelf made entirely out of glass if you'd like. Color coordination is hard for me, so it's not going to look good, but hey, look at that. It's a glass bookshelf, and there's actually a little bit of transparency to it and all that good stuff. So that's kind of a neat little feature for future projects because it gives you the ability to basically get an idea of what your final product might look like. Before you consider it a final product. Ride to bookcase, shiny and chrome. Anyway, we'll just go ahead and change these back to wood. Recommend you do the same because it's really the most straightforward option and it's the easiest to tell what's going on. So I'll go ahead and close that window now that I've got a nice wooden bookshelf. It doesn't actually necessarily change any of the properties of the bookshelf. There are some stats inherent to different materials in Fusion that you can mess around with in the future. If you're making something and you want to get it set up for, 3D printing, or you want to get some idea of how it's going to function or something like that, you can mess around with it and make sure it's got the proper materials. This is strictly for appearance purposes. So we can look at it and go, oh yeah, I guess that's kind of what it's going to look like. All right, it's not too bad. But as far as Fusion is concerned, nothing has changed on the model. It just kind of looks different. Because it doesn't keep, track of that kind of stuff unless you explicitly tell it to, like shear density or shear strength and material density and things like that. Anyway, now that that's done, we're going to do one more thing, which is going to be pretty helpful for us. Actually, this is something I do recommend you guys do. Let's expand the list of bodies in our model. You've got body 1, body 2, body 3, body 4, body 5, body 6, and body 7. Pretty unhelpful names. I mean, just by looking at that, I don't know what body 6 is versus body 4. Or whether or not body 1 and body 2 are connected to one another or whatever. Like, that gives me absolutely no helpful information. So we're just going to go ahead and rename them to things that are more helpful for us. If you mouse over a particular body, or if you click on it once rather, it should highlight that body for you. Actually, if you mouse over it will also highlight it, but it just was taking a second to load for me, so I got impatient. But if you click once, it will certainly highlight it in blue, which will definitely point it out for you. We know then that body 1 is the top of the bookcase. If I just double click on the word body 1, I can change it. I'm going to change it to top, because that's a much more helpful name. Let's do the same thing with body 2. double click. I know it's going to be, and I'm doing this from the perspective of the front view, this is going to be the left wall. So we're going to change that to left wall. Let's do the same with body 3, presumably the right wall. Body 4, well, body 4 is going to be the back of the bookcase. Back. Body 5 is going to be the top shelf. Whereas body 6 is going to be the bottom shelf. Finally, body 7 is this nice kick plate along the bottom. So let's just go ahead and label that kick. Kick. So there, it took all of, 30 seconds of our lives, and now these have much more useful and helpful names than they did before, which is, it would be a lot more important if we were working on something more complex. It's certainly still important here. It's nice to be able to at a glance, be able to tell what you're looking at, what's selected, what's visible, all that good stuff. But certainly as your project gets more complex, as the projects you work on in the future get more complex, you are going to want to name them helpful things. So, body 7 is in fact the left-right turning gear change widget, and body 8 is really cool nose cone cover, or whatever it ends up being. Just so you have at a glance, you can modify these without having to be like, which one is this one? Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and hide that one. All right, and then this one, yeah, okay, we'll keep that one visible. You don't have to do that stuff. You can just be like, bam, 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 done. And in fact, that's exactly what I wanted to do. Go ahead and hide all of your bodies except for the kick. So just the kick should be visible sort of uncomfortably and awkwardly floating on a plane right now. Because we're about to get our bookcase ready for bigger and better things. Because right now what we've done is we've actually, well, let me go ahead and unhide all of these so I can show you. Keep just your kick visible though. What we've done is we've created the 3D model of the bookcase, right? But there are some things missing. Like, just take a stab at it. What do you guys think is missing from this model of the bookcase? Stuff. Stuff is definitely missing from it. You got to get some books in there and things like that, and maybe a PS4 and a TV on top or whatever, depending upon your personal proclivities. But let's put it this way. How are we putting this bookcase together? Right now, it just sort of exists in this magical world where it's an assembled product. But we're kind of missing a way to get all of that bookcase stuff to stick to the other bookcase stuff, right? There are no screws, there are no screw holes, there are no, like staples, there's no nothing. This is all just kind of disparate parts that are, through the magic of technology, stuck together in a bookcase shape. Granted, it's also virtual, so it's not like it really matters, but regardless, we need to set it up so that it can be constructed once it's cut out of a large piece of wood from a CNC machine. In this particular case, what we're going to do is we're going to set it up so that you can assemble it by, using tabs. We're going to set it up so that a whole bunch of tabs are going to be used in each piece that all fit together like some giant, jigsaw puzzle IKEA thing, minus the Allen wrench even. And, that way you don't have to use any sort of extra hardware in order to get it put together. You don't need any screws. You don't need any washers. You don't need any of that stuff. I mean, you could use it if you wanted to in order to reinforce the design of the bookcase after it's constructed, but it wouldn't be necessary, strictly speaking. So, yeah, again, just your kick should be visible. Sorry, don't know what came over me there. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get a sketch started on the front of this bookcase, or front of this kick plate. So, sketch, create sketch, and select the front of the kick plate. Make sure that it's highlighted, that you're very clearly looking at the front of the kick plate by double checking your orientation cube in the top right corner. And then just go ahead and give it a click, and bam. Now your kick plate should be sort of a sickly brownish yellow. That's a good sign. That means that we're looking at a sketch plane here. And we're going to zoom in over on this left-hand side. I know my right's from my left. So now we've just got this half of it. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to go to Sketch, Rectangle, 2-point rectangle, and just slap a couple of rectangles on it. One on the left-hand side, and one on the top near the left-hand side. That's it. Remember, we don't have to worry about proportion or placement quite yet, because we're actually going to fix all that with sketch dimension. So far, I mean, this looks like the kick plate is making a rude gesture, but so far so good. Now let's go ahead and sketch those dimensions. And I need to remember how to sketch those dimensions, or what they should be sketched to. Length to be ply, and kick divided by 3. Okay. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure I had all the dimensions correct. So let's go ahead and work on this left-hand side rectangle first. So we're going to want it to be a certain length. That is, it sticks out a certain distance from the side of the kick plate. And that is going to be ply. So let's go ahead and go up to Sketch, and then Sketch Dimension, and select this side, so it's highlighted, bring it out, and then just type in ply. Bam. It's already looking a little bit more orderly. Let's continue though. We're going to sketch another dimension. If you mouse over the intersection of these two lines here on the rectangle, you should get a white dot. Go ahead and click that white dot. Now it's blue. Same deal up here at the intersection of these two lines at the top left corner of the kick plate. You'll get another white dot if you mouse over it. Go ahead and click that one. Boom. Bring your mouse out to the side. So as you can see, now I've got a vertical dimension. This is the vertical distance between those two dots. We don't want to bring it up because that's going to be the horizontal distance between those two dots, which we've already established is going to be ply. So bring it out to the side so you're measuring the vertical distance. Now that is, I believe, going to be kick divided by 3. Yep, kick divided by 3. So we just type in kick divided by 3. It should turn black, hit enter, and now it spaces itself appropriately. So far we've got the length of the tab, which is ply, and we've got the distance between the top edge of the tab and the top edge of the kick plate, which is kick divided by 3. Now we're going to dimension the width of the tab. This is also going to be kick divided by 3. Yeah, it was actually pretty close. All right. So with that, we've actually fully dimensioned this left-hand tab. We've got it sticking out a length of ply. It has a width of kick divided by 3, and it is kick divided by 3 inches away from either side of the kick plate. I mean, you know, math. If this is a third and this is a third, there's only a third left. So, yeah, it is 1/3 of kick, which I believe was 2 inches. Yeah, it was 2 inches from the top and bottom. Now let's do the same thing for this one. So this one's going to stick out ply. So go ahead and set it to ply so that it's, you know, appropriately long, I guess. This one is going to be okay. And then we're going to dimension the top right here, this top line, because that's going to be the width of the tab. Guess what we're going to set that to? If you guessed tab, you would be correct. We are taking advantage of that user preset that we have in the beginning. But look at that. That's really, I messed that up. But that's okay. It's still fixable. This is what everybody's going to do here. So let's just go ahead and hit escape to get out of the sketch dimension mode. This is going to be, once we get this dimensioned, then we'll call it a lesson. Because again, I have that lesson at 8. We're going to go up to sketch. We're going to sketch a line. Now I have the ability to sketch a line. Now let's zoom way in on the top of this top tab here. You'll notice that as I move the cursor along the top wall here, I get like an X on it, and then there's a dotted line. Dotted line is the distance to the midpoint. So let's go ahead and stick it on the midpoint. You know you've got it on the midpoint when you've got the X, and then you've also got a triangle next to the X and your cursor. So let's go ahead and start our line from the midpoint of the top. And then we'll just bring it down to the bottom. It doesn't have to be exactly straight. The reason it doesn't have to be is, well, I mean, it doesn't really matter. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into a construction line. Remember what I was saying about, you know, construction planes and lines and things like that, where they're not technically part of a drawing? That's what we're going to do with this one. We're going to use it for measurement purposes. So go ahead and click on that line. And then over here on Sketch Palette, you have this one option which appeared. It's normal / construction. Go ahead and click that. It'll turn into an orange dotted line. It's going to be a lot easier to see on your computer than it will be on mine, but it is there, I assure you. So now what we're going to do is we're going to dimension the distance between the the origin and this construction line. Why do you think, and by origin I mean this particular location right here, why do you think I'm starting from the origin? Any guesses? Well, I'll tell you this much. The reason why we're starting from the origin is because the origin is a constant in all of our sketches. Even though our relative view changes, even though the stuff that's visible or invisible changes, that doesn't matter. The origin will always be in exactly the same spot. If you remember, we started our sketch at the origin in order to create this left wall. So we're looking at it from the side right now. This would be the plane that the sketch is on. In fact, this would be the exact location of the sketch. So by extension, this left wall is right here. So this origin is the exact location of the left-hand side, the outside of the left-hand wall. Pretty handy, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to start at the origin, and we're going to go to that midpoint line, bring it out, and it is going to be width divided by 3. Hit enter, and there it goes. It goes shooting across the top of the kick plate in its proper position, and now everything is dimensioned, at least for these 2 tabs. With that, I'm actually going to end it here. We're going to skip the poll questions for today, just because I got to make sure I get over to the other class on time. That was my fault that we ran a little bit over, and I apologize for that. Hopefully, though, this was helpful and a little bit enlightening. I hope you guys are excited to get your bookcases done, so they can get familiar with Autodesk Fusion 360 and other, well, be more confident with other CAD programs, and maybe design something of your own that you can mess around with and make on a CNC machine or whatever. But with that, this recording will be up tonight on YouTube. It'll probably be up late tonight, but it will be up tonight. So at the very least, you guys should be able to review it tomorrow if you need to, and either get caught up on maybe something you missed on this, or double check and make sure all your stuff is correct, or whatever the case may be. But it will be there for that. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and close down the webinar so that you guys can get on your own way and I can get over to the other class. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I hope you find this interesting so far. If not, I hope you find the next thing interesting. And we will see you on Monday, back to our regularly scheduled sort of webinars. Yeah, we'll still be working on this bookshelf next week. We'll be working on it for a while yet, because we still got to tab all of the different pieces, and then we got to put it on a flat plane and then get it ready and set up the cam and all that stuff. So there's still a lot of work to be done. No problem. Have a great weekend.